the quiet moment she chose herself. There is a kind of heartbreak that does not arrive all at once. It does not slam the door or throw your life across the room. It sits beside you quietly while you check your phone for the 10th time. It watches you explain yourself to someone who already heard you the first time. At first, you call it love. You call it patience. You tell yourself that people are complicated, timing is difficult, and everyone has wounds they do not know how to name, so you soften. You wait. You become easier to keep around. You answer late messages with a warm voice. You forgive cancelled plans before the apology is finished. You make yourself smaller, not because you want to disappear, but because you hope there will finally be enough room for someone to choose you. But there comes a quiet moment when the heart gets tired of performing. It stops asking, "What else can I become so they will love me?" It begins asking, "Why did I believe love required me to beg?" Clara Voss learned this on a Thursday evening in November, while rain slid down the front window of her flower shop and blurred the lights from the ferry terminal across the street. Her shop was called Marigold House, though most people in town simply called it Clara's. It smelled of eucalyptus, wet stems, and the clean green scent that stayed on her hands no matter how long she washed them. Every morning, she stood in the cold back room with an apron tied at her waist, trimming roses, wrapping lilies, and listening to gulls cry over the harbour. People came to her shop at important moments. They came when someone was born, when someone died, when someone apologized, when someone hoped. Clara had learned to read the language of flowers and silence. A man buying yellow tulips in a hurry was usually trying to repair something small. A woman choosing white carnations with careful fingers was usually trying to survive something large. Clara was good at helping other people say what they could not say. But with Owen, she forgot her own language. Owen worked on the ferry line. He had dark hair that curled at his collar and a way of smiling as if he had just remembered something private. When he first came into the shop, he bought a small bunch of lavender for his mother's birthday. He stayed 20 minutes longer than he needed to, asking Clara about the names of flowers. He came back the next week. Then the week after that. Soon he was leaning against her counter after closing, telling her about the sea, the passengers, the loneliness of going back and forth between two shores. Clara liked the way he noticed small things. He noticed when she changed the ribbon colors near the register. He noticed when she was tired. He noticed the tiny scar above her thumb from a floral knife. For a while, being noticed felt like being loved. Then Owen began to come and go like weather. Some nights he would arrive with coffee and sit in the back room while Clara cleaned buckets. He would talk about leaving town one day, maybe buying a boat, maybe going north, maybe taking her somewhere where the rain did not feel so heavy. Other nights he vanished. He would ignore her messages for days, then return with a soft apology and tired eyes. He never said he did not care. That would have been easier. Instead, he cared just enough to keep hope alive, and not enough to let it rest. Clara began to measure her evenings by the possibility of him. She left the shop lights on longer than she needed to. She turned down dinner with her sister because Owen had said he might stop by. She kept soup warm on the stove in the small apartment above the shop, in case he came in from the cold, when he cancelled. She told herself he was overwhelmed. When he was distant, she told herself he was afraid. When he avoided talking about what they were, she told herself the right moment had not arrived yet. One evening, after 3 days of silence, Clara typed a message that said, "I just need to know where. I stand with you. She stared at it for almost an hour before sending it. Owen answered after midnight. You know I care about you. I just do not want pressure right now. Clara read the message, in bed with the rain, tapping the roof above her. Pressure, the words settled heavily in her chest. She had not asked for a ring, a promise, or a future with a locked door. She had asked where she stood, but when you have been begging quietly for too long, even your simplest need can sound too large to someone who benefits from your silence. The next day, Owen came by, near closing. Clara was wiring small white flowers into a bridal comb. Her hands kept working as he spoke. He said he missed her. He said things had been hard. He said he hated when they felt tense. Clara nodded, because nodding had become a habit. Then he said, I just need you to be patient with me. The words were familiar. He had said them before, in different coats, under different skies, with different versions of the same tired smile. Clara looked at the flowers in her hand. Each stem was delicate, but not weak. If she bent it too many times, it would break. For the first time, she did not rush to comfort him. She did not explain that she understood. She did not promise to wait better. She did not make her pain smaller, so he could leave without guilt. She simply set the comb down and untied. Her apron. Owen watched her turn the sign on the door from open to closed. I am going upstairs, she said. He blinked. Are you upset? I am tired, Clara said, and I do not want to keep asking someone to treat my heart like it matters. The sentence surprised both of them. Owen looked wounded, which once would have made Clara apologize. But that night, his discomfort did not become her emergency. He said her name softly. She wanted to turn back. The old part of her wanted to repair the moment, to smooth the air, to prove that she was not difficult to love. But beneath that old fear was something steadier. It was not anger, it was self-respect, returning in a quiet coat, asking to be let in. Clara climbed the stairs to her apartment. She ate the soup she had made for herself. She turned off her phone. For the first time in months, the empty chair across from her did not feel like evidence that she had not been chosen. It felt like space. But life had another lesson waiting, in another part of the city, far from the fairy lights and flower buckets. Malik Reyes was learning the same truth under the yellow glow of a bakery kitchen. His heartbreak did not smell like rain and eucalyptus. It smelled like flour, butter, and coffee brewed before sunrise. Malik worked nights at a bakery called The Early Hour. By 3 in the morning, while most of the city slept behind dark windows. He was already shaping dough with strong, careful hands. He liked the quiet discipline of baking. You could not rush yeast. You could not argue with heat. The bread became what it became because you gave it what it needed, then waited without forcing it. People thought Malik was patient by nature. They did not know how much of his patience had become a hiding place. His ex, Erin, had left 6 months earlier. She said she needed freedom. She said Malik was kind, but kindness was not enough. She cried when she packed her books, and he ended up carrying the boxes to her car because he could not bear to watch her struggle. After she moved out, Erin kept calling. At first it was small things. Her car battery died. Her sink leaked. She had a panic attack after work and did not know who else to call. Malik answered every time. He told himself this was what love did. Love showed up. Love did not become cruel just because the relationship had ended. Love did not keep score, so he drove across town after 12-hour shifts. He paid a bill she said she would repay. He listened while she cried about men who did not call her back. He stood in her new apartment fixing a shelf, while a photograph of them no longer sat anywhere in the room. Each time he helped, Erin hugged him a little longer than she needed to. "You are the only person who really knows me," she would say. Those words were dangerous because they sounded like a doorway. Malik kept thinking that, if he stayed steady enough, she would remember. If he was gentle enough, useful enough, forgiving enough, she would wake one morning and understand that the love she was searching for had been answering the phone all along. But being needed can imitate. Being loved so well that a lonely heart cannot tell the difference. One December morning, just before dawn, Malik was glazing orange rolls when his phone buzzed on the metal table. It was Erin. "Can you come over after work? I really need you." He stared at the message. His wrists ached. Flour dusted his forearms. In 2 hours, the bakery doors would open, and customers would arrive, smiling at the warmth he had made while they slept. He typed, "What happened?" She replied, "I have to move some furniture before Daniel comes over tonight." It would mean a lot. Daniel was someone new. Malik had heard the name twice, both times wrapped in a nervous casualness Erin used when she wanted permission without asking for it. He stood in the kitchen, reading the message again. For a moment, the old bargain rose inside him. If he helped, he would seem mature. If he helped, she would see how rare he was. If he helped, maybe she would compare his steadiness to Daniel's uncertainty and feel the truth. Then his boss, Mrs. Alvarez, came in through the back door carrying a crate of apples. She was 62, sharp-eyed, and kind in a way that never wasted words. "You look like someone asked you to carry a piano with your heart," she said. Malik gave a tired laugh, but it broke halfway. He told her, "Not everything, but enough." Mrs. Alvarez listened while tying her apron. Then she said, "A person can be grateful for your help and still not be choosing you." Malik looked down at his hands. She continued, "Do not confuse access with love. Some people miss what you give them more than they miss you." The words did not feel dramatic. They felt like a light turned on in a room he had avoided entering. After his shift, Malik sat in his car behind the bakery. The sky was pale now. Delivery trucks groaned down the street. He could smell warm bread through the back wall. He opened Erin's message. His thumb hovered over the screen. He imagined going to her apartment. He imagined lifting the couch, laughing politely, pretending not to notice the clean shirt she had chosen for another man. He imagined returning home with an empty stomach and a full ache, telling himself he had done the loving thing. Then he imagined something else. He imagined sleeping. He imagined making breakfast for himself when he woke. He imagined letting Erin solve a problem that did not belong to him. He typed slowly, "I cannot come today. I hope the move goes well." For several minutes, there was no response. Then Erin wrote, "Wow, I thought I could count on you." The sentence hit the old bruise. Malik almost apologized. His body knew the routine before his mind agreed to it. But he sat still. He read her message again, and this time he heard what was missing. She was upset about losing his service, not his presence. She wanted the benefits of his devotion without the responsibility of loving him with care. Malik put the phone face down. He drove home while the city woke. For the first time in months, he did not feel strong. He felt shaky, guilty, and strangely young, as if he were learning to walk in a new direction. At home, he slept for 6 hours. When he awoke, there were 3 missed calls and a message that said, "Forget it." He made eggs. He toasted a piece of bread from the bakery. He ate slowly by the window. The silence did not feel peaceful yet, but it felt honest, and slowly the lesson became impossible to ignore. Sometimes begging does not sound like pleading. Sometimes it sounds like being available for every crisis. Sometimes it sounds like paying with your time, your sleep, your money, and your dignity, hoping the receipt will finally say, "Love." But the heart cannot be purchased back from someone who has already decided to spend it elsewhere. Priya Shah would have understood that. Though her version of begging was almost invisible, she did not chase. She did not call repeatedly. She did not show up where she was not invited. Her heartbreak was quieter than that. It lived in the careful sentences she edited before sending, the needs she wrapped in softness, and the future she kept holding open for a man who only visited it in words. Priya taught violin at a community music school in a neighborhood where old brick buildings held the cold long after sunset. Every winter, her students prepared for a recital in the small auditorium above the library. The room had wooden floors, velvet curtains, and radiators that hissed during slow songs. Priya loved teaching children how to listen. She would tell them that music was not only about the notes they played, it was about the space between them. It was about entering at the right time. It was about not forcing beauty, but not abandoning it either. Her students trusted her because she was gentle without being vague in her own life. She had forgotten how to be that clear dot. Theo lived 3 states away. They met at a friend's wedding, where he spilled coffee on his shirt and made Priya laugh so hard she forgot to be polite. For the first year, he visited often. He sent voice messages from airports. He mailed her a copy of a book they had talked about for 10 minutes. He said he had never felt so understood. Then distance became a room he asked her to keep decorating alone. He talked about moving closer, but never looked for work. He talked about marriage, but changed the subject when she asked about dates. He said she was his home, yet months passed between visits. Priya tried to be reasonable. Theo's job was demanding. His father had health problems. Travel was expensive. Life was not simple, so she became simpler. She stopped saying how lonely Sundays felt after teaching all week. She stopped mentioning how hard it was to attend friends' dinners alone while everyone asked when Theo was coming back. She stopped telling him that loving someone from a distance still required movement. Whenever she raised the subject, Theo sounded tired. "Can we not turn this into a heavy conversation tonight?" He would ask, and Priya, who could guide a trembling child through a difficult measure, would swallow the truth and say, "Of course." The winter recital approached. Her students were nervous, especially a 12-year-old named Leela, who kept rushing through the final line of her piece. One evening, Priya stopped the lesson and sat beside her. "You are hurrying because you are afraid the note will disappear," Priya said. Leela looked embarrassed. Priya smiled. "Let it ring. If the note is real, it can hold the room for a moment." After the lesson, those words stayed with her. If the note is real, it can hold the room. That night, Theo called late. His face appeared on her laptop screen, tired and handsome in the blue light. Behind him, she could see unpacked boxes from the apartment he had moved into 6 months earlier. He had once said it was temporary. Priya asked if he had thought more about visiting for the recital. Theo rubbed his eyes. "I want to pry. You know I do. It is just a bad time." "It is always a bad time," she said softly. He sighed. Please do not make it sound like I do not care. There it was. The familiar turning point. If she continued, she would become the one causing pain. If she stopped, peace would return, but only on the surface. Priya looked at the violin resting on the chair beside her desk. She thought of Leela rushing through the note because she was afraid it would disappear. For years, Priya had rushed through her own needs for the same reason. She had believed that if she let her longing fully ring, Theo might leave the room. But a love that survives only when you silence yourself is not peace. It is a performance. I know you care, she said, but I do not feel chosen by your care. Theo looked away from the camera. She continued, I have been trying to make my needs sound smaller so they would not scare you. But they are not unreasonable. I want presence. I want effort. I want a life that is not always postponed. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I cannot promise anything right now. Priya closed her eyes. There was the answer. Not the one she wanted, but the one that had been living beneath every delay in the past. She would have negotiated with it. She would have asked how much time he needed. She would have offered another month, another season, another version of herself that required less. That night, she did not. Thank you for being honest, she said. He looked startled. What does that mean? It means I need to stop building my life around maybe. Her voice shook, but it did not collapse. Theo said he loved her. She believed him. That was the hardest part. He loved her in the way he knew how, from a distance, with warmth, with memory, with promises that never became footsteps. But love that never arrives can still keep you waiting at the door. After the call ended, Priya sat in the quiet apartment. Snow moved past the window in thin white lines. For a while she cried with one hand over her mouth, not because she doubted her decision, but because choosing yourself can still break your heart. The next day, at the recital, Lila played the final line without rushing. The last note rose into the auditorium and held there, trembling and clear. Priya stood in the back, listening with tears in her eyes. She understood then that self-worth was not loud. It did not always arrive with certainty. Sometimes it was only a note you allowed to ring because you had finally stopped being afraid of the silence after it. Clara, Malik, and Priya never met. They lived in different corners of the same wide world, carrying different heartbreaks through different rooms. One stood in a flower shop after closing. One sat in a bakery parking lot at sunrise. One ended a call in an apartment filled with music and snowlight. But each of them reached the same quiet doorway. They had all believed, for a while, that love was something they could earn by becoming easier to choose. Clara tried to become endlessly patient. Malik tried to become endlessly useful. Priya tried to become endlessly understanding. None of them were foolish. They were human. They were people with soft hearts who mistook endurance for devotion. They stayed because there had been beautiful moments. They stayed because the other person was not a villain. They stayed because hope can make a half-open door look like a home. That is why this lesson hurts. It is easy to leave cruelty when it shows its teeth. It is harder to leave, almost like it is harder to walk away from someone who holds you tenderly sometimes, answers warmly sometimes, promises sincerely sometimes, and still does not choose you in the daily places where love becomes real, but your value is not proven by how long you can wait outside someone's uncertainty. Your worth does not increase because you suffered quietly. It does not become more visible because you explained it perfectly. It does not become undeniable because you gave one more chance, one more favor, one more soft version of the truth. The right people may not always know exactly how to love you at first. Everyone is learning. Everyone carries fear. But the right people do not require you to beg for basic respect. They do not turn your needs into pressure every time those needs ask for air. They listen. They try. They meet you in the honest middle. And if someone cannot do that, your task is not to become smaller until they can. Your task is to remember that love is not a courtroom where you must keep presenting evidence that you matter. You already matter, not because someone texted back, not because someone came over, not because someone finally realized what they had. You matter before the reply, before the apology, before the choosing. The moment you stop begging may not feel powerful at first. It may feel lonely. It may feel like a mistake. You may miss them so much that your whole body reaches backward. You may wonder if you were too honest, too sensitive, too late, too much. But stay with yourself. There is a steadiness that comes after the shaking. There is a morning when you wake up and realize you did not spend the night waiting for a sign. There is an evening when silence no longer feels like rejection, but like room to breathe. That is where self-worth begins to return, not as pride, not as revenge, as peace one day. You stop standing at the door of someone else's hesitation. You turn toward your own life. You pick up the flowers. You rest your tired hands. You let the final note ring, and for the first time in a long time, you do not ask anyone to see your value. You see it.